What I can say with full definitive certainty is what she did from a source angle is wrong. Welcome back, everyone. This is a new edition of Bando's Breakdowns, episode 86. I'm your host, Zain Bando. Hope you all are doing well on this Friday afternoon, Friday, April 17th, 2026, or whenever you may be listening to this after the fact. Thank you so much for tuning in to yet another edition of BB. Again, greatly appreciated. Please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe to the Empty the Bench Podcast Network. To do so, go to youtube.com/EDB Network, hit that subscribe button, and hit that notification bell. That way you don't miss a single episode of this show or any other show across the network. Would be greatly appreciated if you guys supported this video by giving it a thumbs up. And of course, on the audio-only side, you can listen to Bando's Breakdowns wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to give it a 5-star review on the podcast platform of your choice, as it tells me that you like all the different content I'm putting out. You want me to be more so at the top of your algorithm, and it just helps out everybody involved, and it tells me that you like this type of weekly content for me to continue to do. It would be greatly appreciated if you guys did so on that front as well. Again, listen to Bando's Breakdowns wherever you get your podcast. All right, and then one final reminder before we get started with today's episode, please be sure to follow the show across social media at Bando's Breakdown. To do so, go to Twitter, Instagram, and Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok to follow the show accounts across all of those. That's where all the clips live and reels live from every episode of this show. So again, if you want those, you'll have those at your disposal following the show's premiere. So there you go. And then finally, for those of you who've never seen me before, again, my name is Zain Bando. I'm a sports journalist and an ETB Network co-host. You can check me out across several different platforms, including MMA Knockout on Sports Illustrated, The Sporting News, Field of Media, Ohio State Buckeyes on Sports Illustrated, was formerly with the Dallas Wings on Sports Illustrated as well. That site has decided to take a different direction, unfortunately, but hoping to get back to covering the WNBA at some point soon, and several other syndicates as well, easily Google searchable, if you will, super accessible. And of course, my DMs are always open for any questions that you guys may have, as I use this show as an extension of all the written work I do, because I know certain things that I can't publish on those, I can say on here, because this is my own platform and my own show, so I can really get into the weeds of what I really think is going on, to use that as leverage for other stories I put out in the coming days, weeks, months. You get the idea. So there's several ways to keep in contact with me, but there you guys go. So that's what you guys are going to get. If you guys have never heard me before, I'm a guy who likes to talk about Chicago sports. I'm a guy that likes to talk about combat sports. I'm a guy that is obsessed with Big Ten football, Big Ten basketball, controversial stories that some people are not as willing to really touch. So we get into that sometimes as well, and we'll go into stuff that really I care about. So if you know me and you know my background and you know what I'm really about, you know that this show is raw. This show is authentically me. I have no idea what I'm going to say when I react to some of these topics. Everything is all off the cuff, and that's what I want it to be. I want it to be conversational. I want you to be able to debate with me, ask me questions, all that sort of thing, and so much more. So let's get into the show itself, and let's start with Zain's overview. What we're going to be discussing today, we have a big show on tap. Dianna Russini resigns from The Athletic after photos surfaced of her and Mike Vrabel in Arizona. So obviously that is a major story. It's one of the biggest stories in sports. One of the lead NFL reporters in the business, no longer with The Athletic after a pretty, I would say, controversial stint. There's been some things that she's done that a lot of people don't agree with. George Kittle publicly called her out as well a couple months ago. There's been some stuff. So we'll get into that. We'll get into what I think of it, the ethics of it, what happens to her, what I think should happen to Mike Vrabel. At the time that we're recording this, nothing has happened to Mike Vrabel regarding his job security with the New England Patriots. Obviously, as we know, he just went to the Super Bowl a couple months ago and lost to a very good Seattle Seahawks team. So we'll get into that. College basketball transfer portal. I have some more updates on that. I have more updates on who Illinois is pursuing and who I think Illinois will pursue. So we will talk about that. We're going to use our handy dandy tracker that we used about a week ago to go over some information about that. And then we're also going to get into some UFC stuff. We're going to get into some WNBA. We're going to get into a few things here. So figured I would tell you guys what is going on with all of this stuff as well. And in fact, according to the tracker that I have, we're going to give you guys some real-time updates as in real-time this week updates. So that'll be really helpful when we get to that segment. Then we're going to talk about some NFL draft stuff and so much more. So without further ado, let's get started. The big bombshell story that dropped midday Tuesday. Dianna Russini resigning from The Athletic. Some photos had surfaced about a week ago of her and Mike Vrabel at a bungalow in Arizona, holding hands. Very seems obvious to me from the pictures. And let's talk about this from a few angles. So, first things first, I think from a journalistic standpoint, this is a terrible look for Russini, okay? One of the first things you're taught in journalism is you can't get too close to sources, and you can't really be friends with sources either. You can be friendly. There's a difference between being friendly and being friends with the source, okay? And that's a huge red flag because it can be perceived that bias is involved within said relationship. So that's number one. That's a huge red flag. Number two, there's the whole conspiracy theory about AJ Brown and what the heck happened with AJ Brown years ago with Mike Vrabel that has something to do with this. There's a ton of stuff going around about this Russini situation. But what I can say is I feel like if you're at a very nice resort in Arizona, and I understand that, NFL coaches and owners and personnel and people close to the league, they go and do this sort of thing. But you got to know, I think, when to be on the clock and when to be off of it. And as Skip Bayless said, it's a line that you shouldn't cross. I mean, it's as simple as that. You shouldn't go out of your way to do extra means just to get a scoop, okay? There's a difference between, in my opinion, a handshake versus a setting with a pool and there's people around and stuff like that. Now, I'm hoping that she's innocent because I do think, from a general sense, she is a great reporter, but this is a horrible look. This more so goes into the realm of content creation and new media than anything else. Now you're seeing all these influencers pop up on TikTok and Instagram and stuff like that, and I'm nowhere close to any of those people. In fact, I don't even want to be those people. I just want to be me. I don't want to be perceived as somebody that I'm not. But I think you're getting into influencer territory when you start to talk about, oh, this popped up and it's everywhere. It's all over Page 6 and the New York Post and da 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 da. Like I don't know. I don't know. What I can tell you is I think this makes Russini look worse than Vrabel, because to me, Vrabel is going to give her the information. Okay, it's her that seems like she was the one sort of initiating things, and now there's all these videos coming out of her just partying to excess without her husband. I'm not saying she's cheating on him, which there's no evidence to suggest that. I want to make that very clear before I say that, but it seems very suspicious that she is doing all these things and going out clubbing and doing all this sorts of stuff to where, now these videos are surfacing to where it's like, what is really going on with her? And then people, have come to find out that, she's still Apparently, I don't know if it's still true, but as of a week ago, she was following her Mike Vrabel's son on Instagram, which isn't the worst thing in the world. But when you try to connect the two interlinks together, you don't usually see, people following people's kids like that. Like I don't know. But what I can say is it's a bad look for everybody involved. It's a horrible look for the Athletic because they are one of the gold standards in sports journalism, and it's a bummer because she was, to me, very good at what she did, and now her credibility is, I don't know if it's shot completely, but it certainly has taken a major hit that people would have not suspected a couple of months ago, let alone a year ago. I'm not so sure. But what I can say is there's a whole lot more to come out about this. I'm sure I'm going to be talking about this a whole lot more because this story is far from over. Mike Vrabel's side still fully hasn't been told of this. We only know Russini's side of the story. I wonder if Vrabel is ever going to publicly comment on it, and if he does, even if it's a statement by himself or another one at least, because he has put one out previously. I'm almost positive. Then him doing that may spark something. So, what I can say with full definitive certainty is what she did from a source angle is wrong. Number one. Number two, there are two sides to every story. And number three, we have to let the facts play out, because if the facts can't play out as such, then we're all doing this and we're all overblowing this for no other reason than because it's the biggest story in sports, and every person and platform needs as much traffic as possible, which I completely understand. But sometimes there's a line you just don't go to, and maybe that's it. So who knows? What I can say though, ugly situation, more to come on it, and we shall see what transpires. Let's move on now to the college basketball transfer portal. Let's take a look at it from the Illinois side of things as to who Illinois is targeting in the portal. So this is according to a sheet that I have here. I'm not going to say where I got it, but what I will say is it's kind of interesting. So let's take a look. It seems that the guard play is gonna fill out here soon. Um, Stephen Vox was Illinois' first portal commitment this past week out of Providence. He's a guard, 6'7", 206 pounds, out of Estonia. He has 3 years of eligibility remaining. He averaged 15.8 points per game, 2.5 rebounds, and 3.2 assists. Obviously, as we just alluded to a week ago, John Blackwell is still in the running for Illinois. He has 6 schools in total interested in him, but to me, the front runners are Illinois, Duke, and UCLA. I think those are the big three that you want to look at. I think it'll be between Michigan and U of I, because I think him being from Michigan, I think him going home would make a whole lot of sense. But his dad played for Illinois, so who knows? I'm like so nervous about this commitment. It needs to be around May 4th already, because I can't sit still whenever I think about this potential John Blackwell commitment. And then there's interest in Alex Wilkins, as I said this past week. Rowan Brumbaugh is another one. He's from Tulane. Jake Hall from New Mexico. And then the most recent one, I believe this was as of Wednesday, was KJ Lewis out of Georgia. KJ Lewis was an Illinois prospect who committed to USC. There seemed to be interest in him, but he decided to go with USC and Eric Musselman. So we'll see if that comes out to anything at all. But yeah, still very early in the portal cycle. More to fill out, but that is kind of the latest from Illinois' standpoint. We will see where we are at in the John Blackwell sweepstakes in the coming days and weeks. Let's talk about the WNBA draft for just a couple minutes here. AZ Flood is going to the Dallas Wings to play with her former teammate and girlfriend, Paige Beckers. Big news. Obviously, UConn did not win the national championship, but AZ Fudd, clearly the best player in the draft. I'm super, super excited to see how this Dallas Wings team looks in the coming years. They may not be good right away, but they will be competitive. They will be in a lot of games, and them playing together on the biggest stage before is only going to help them. We got Jaquez going to the Chicago Sky. That's huge. And also the Sky even picked up some newer pieces in lieu of Angel Reese going to the Dream. So that is gigantic for the Sky. Obviously, UCLA had a bunch of players get drafted too, including Warren Betts as well. But kind of back over to AZ Flood, though, for a second. This was no surprise. There was tons of suspense for months. Would it be Fam? Would it be Flood? And obviously, Flood got drafted there. And to me, I think it's a no-brainer. Again, two ex-teammates, two players that are intimately close to one another. It only makes all the sense in the world. Jose Fernandez wants to build that team around those two, and who could blame him? And, they're going to have some young pieces. I mean, they have not been good in a long time. We'll see if they can become good under these two, but I don't know, man. I really don't know. What I can say, though, is it should be a very exciting WNBA season now that we have one. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing how that plays out. All right. Drew Allar is apparently going to visit the Steelers. And this is big news because Aaron Rodgers still has not made a decision as to whether or not he's going to return to Pittsburgh. Hey, man, Drew Allar, Penn State guy, obviously very familiar with the area as well. Felt like he was under-recruited out of college. And this is another prove itself year for him. Obviously he was injured this past season. James Franklin got fired. Obviously he was a couple passes away from going to the national championship game 2 years ago. I don't know, man. I just don't know if Drew Allar has the clutch gene in Pittsburgh that you need to win consistently. I don't know. I don't know if you can take over a franchise that hasn't had a legitimate identity in several years, I would say, probably since Ben Roethlisberger retired. I don't know. I just think it's too much pressure for him. We'll see. We'll see how it plays out, but to me, this is a big, big risk if you're Pittsburgh. I think it's a big risk for anybody to look at Drew Allar right now after the injury that he sustained. If he even is remotely the same player that he was 2 years ago, I have no idea because you don't have much game film to base it off of. He was injured in mid-October this past year, so I don't know what to think of Allar visiting with Pittsburgh. All I know is Pittsburgh is going to be taking a risk here, and it may not be a good one. So we shall see. Speaking of college football, I guess, Kamden Lopati flips to Michigan. This is a big deal. 4-star quarterback out of Salt Lake City, Utah, as it says in the banner there for those watching. And then for those on the audio-only side, Kamden Lopati, we're going to go over his scouting report according to 247 Sports as well. And this is interesting. So he's the 4th best quarterback in Utah, the 19th best quarterback in the nation, committed to Michigan, as I just alluded to. He was committed to Illinois since last July. This is very disappointing if you are in Illinois because this kid was supposed to be the guy. He was going to be the highest rated prospect that Brett Bielema would have ever gotten commitment-wise in his Illinois tenure so far. And some other schools that were interested in this kid, you had Arizona, you had Arizona State, you had Arkansas. He had offers from everywhere. But honestly, I can't really blame him for going to Michigan because he could very well end up becoming Bryce Underwood's replacement. I don't think that's something that a lot of people are talking about. Obviously, they need to build for the future. Bryce Underwood, more than likely, is only going to be at Michigan for 2 more seasons. So you're gonna need a guy to step into that role. So that's huge. And obviously for Illinois, it goes to show that it's tough. It's tough. They have not gotten they've gotten over the hump in terms of winning bowl games and winning 9 games and 10 games, but they haven't gotten to that college football playoff level of success. And I think this was more of a calculated decision to say, I'm going to go play for a guy in Whittingham who's won a lot, and I want to go play for a program that's brand rich in tradition and history. And Illinois is that, but Illinois is that of very much a yesteryear generation, whereas Michigan has won a national title in the last 3 years. So I think that's a major sticking point there, and I honestly can't blame the kid. I really can't. Whether it was money or whatever, I mean it is what it is, and who knows with how wacky the portal is. Maybe if this guy doesn't play, maybe he portals out and he goes somewhere else. So I don't know, but that's a flip. He had been committed to Illinois since last July. There was a rumor that he might flip to Tennessee. That didn't happen. And now he's committed to Michigan. So there you go. Who knows what other splashes Illinois can make, but it seems clear now that Carson Boyd and Michael Clayton, after Caden Hauser leaves Champaign, are going to be the guys moving forward. And we'll see if it works out. There's no guarantee if it will, but this kid going to Michigan is huge. And I do think the Utah connection from Whittingham having been there is only going to help him and not hurt him. So we shall see. I honestly think it's a very smart move for this kid to flip to Michigan, but that's just me unbiasedly saying that because the pros outweigh the cons, in my opinion, there. So there you go. All right, let's talk about UFC 327. We did horrible on this card. We were 4-7-1 for the event. The main event of the evening, as I alluded to on Zanzinger Part 2, saw Carlos Alberg win on one leg over Yuri Prochazka in the opening round to win the UFC Light Heavyweight title by TKO in a huge, huge, huge win for the New Zealander to become the new champion. That's now 10 wins in a row for Alberg. But the major question now is what's going to happen next at 205 because he's not 100% healthy. The UFC is in a bind. They have a big decision to make, and I'm going to keep saying it over and over and over again. Yuri Prochazka Magomed Ankalaev is the fight for a couple reasons. Number one, Prochazka's only 2 losses in the last 10 years, which people seem to forget, are Alex Pereira twice and Carlos Alberg. Okay? Magomed Ankalaev just lost his light heavyweight title last October. There's no reason to suggest that he isn't the number 1 contender still after being on that long winning streak. Okay? But prior to that. That's number 2. And I understand the argument, we don't want to see Yuri in title fights. He's 1-3 in title fights, and 2 of his losses are to one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. I don't think there's anything to sweat at. And now he's no longer in the division. So now there's no excuse to try to win the title back. So my thought process is if he's going to be out a year, make Yuri versus Magomed for the interim title, and now you have a fight to sell. You have Ankalaev as a redemption story to try to win the belt against the guy who just won it. And so he's not under the pressure cooker of multiple light heavyweight title defenses. And then you look over at the other side, Yuri Prochazka. This is a revenge sort of fight as well for him to try to win the belt back after a fluky accident. Or not accident, but not capitalizing on said accident after Alberg had his knee blown out. So we'll see what happens, but I did think that this was a very, very interesting main event. The rest of the card was really good. The Josh Hokett, Curtis Blades fight was also awesome. And of course, Josh Hokett is now going to be on the White House card. So let's move over there. The biggest update to the White House I can give you is there is now 7 fights as opposed to 6. So Derek Lewis, Josh Hokett, added to the White House card. It was announced on the night of the fight, Saturday night. Donald Trump asked Dana White why Derek Lewis was not on the White House card. And Dana White said, I don't know. Why is he not on the White House card? So they figured it out. That fight is now booked for the South Lawn, June 14th in Washington, D.C. So that is gigantic. And obviously, of course, as we all know, Josh Hokett is a character. And of course, Donald Trump's favorite fighter is Derek Lewis. And speaking of the White House, I just wanted to mention something about what some of the commentators are saying in regards to this White House event that really kind of bugs me in a way to where I don't fully agree. So the part that I think Luke Thomas is wrong about, I think he's trying to spin the political narrative every chance he gets with the White House event. It's easy to do so because of the Trump angle of it. But my argument with this whole thing is you sort of knew this was coming. You knew this was coming last fall, and now you're all up in arms about it because there's a political maneuver that you knew about a year ago that I don't know. My point is people are now coming out of the woodwork to say that this is a political maneuver or a smear campaign for Trump, and it could be in a sense. But my whole argument with this whole thing is pick a lane. Either say that it is political for the main reasons here, Trump's birthday, America 250, and him being at the event, or say it's not political because it's an event that almost shows the culmination of what was the original Wild Wild West version of the UFC with this no rules thing, to do it in such a well-known venue or place for the event itself. I feel like you got to pick a wing. That's my main issue with it. I feel like you can support the actual fights themselves. See, that's the thing. That's the thing that I wish people would kind of separate. I understand it's hard not to, but the fights themselves on this event are fantastic fights. You're going to get hopefully an entertaining fight in every single fight that there is there. But there's also this political angle to it, to where people are watching it for the sheer spectacle of it, and that's not a bad thing either. But I feel like you gotta be on one side or the other. You're either watching it for the political part of it, or you're watching it for the actual fights themselves. That's simply my argument with that. And one quick boxing topic here: Tyson Fury-Anthony Joshua. I'd like to see this fight. Is it a few years too late? Yeah. But is it one of the biggest fights that could be made in boxing currently? 100% yes. Absolutely it is. 100% yes. Anthony Joshua is still a power puncher. Tyson Fury can still talk a lot of trash. I did not think he looked that good this past weekend at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium in London against Makhmudov. I thought he looked slow. I thought he looked old. He didn't try to knock him down. I think with the way Anthony Joshua has fought the last couple of years, outside of the Dubois fight, from what I can recall, he's looked unbelievable. So I think you get Joshua and even the Jake Paul knockout, even the Jake Paul fight, you can't really take too seriously. He looked good in that fight too. I think if he catches Fury's getting knocked out. If those two fight, it's gonna be a mismatch, in my opinion. And my way too early prediction is Fury. All right. Briefly on UFC Winnipeg this weekend from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. Main event of the evening is the hometown guy, Mike Malott, taking on former UFC welterweight title challenger Gilbert Dorino Burns. Burns 22-9, Malott 13-2-1 in the main event, 5 rounds, non-title fight. Let's take a look at the tail of the tape. Mike Malott is a massive favorite. He has won 4 out of his last 5 fights. Minus 600 overall. Gilbert Burns on the comeback is plus 390. Gilbert Burns has lost 4 out of his last 5 fights. Yeah, this is a mismatch if I've ever seen, when Gilbert Burns is just about to turn 40 years old. Mike Malott is inching closer to 35. I think this is an easy pick. And Tapology agrees. Mike Malott at 79%, Gilbert Burns at 21% here. And yeah, I think it's a mismatch. Give me Mike Malott by decision in this one. I just think his youth is a little bit better. His strength is better. His wrestling is better. And if he can use his boxing well to frustrate Burns and gas him out late, should be a really, really, really easy win for him Saturday night in the main event of the evening. To go over a few more of the particulars if I can. It's a 13-fight card. It starts at 5 p.m. Eastern on Paramount Plus. Some other names on the card, particularly out of Canada: Charles Jourdain, Jasmine Jasudavicius, Robert Valentin, Tanner Boser, Melissa Croden, Jamie Lynn Horth, and Jamie Sarai. So there's a bunch of Canadians on this card. Be sure to tune into it. It's a decent fight night card. It's not great, but if you like Canada heavy flavor, you will get it on this card this Saturday night from Winnipeg, Manitoba. All right, one thing that I saw, Ryan Day suggested a couple of days ago that there should be a college football draft. I think it would be very interesting, but I think it would be very difficult for a few reasons. Number one, there's too many high school prospects out there to really do a full-on draft of all these guys. It would take forever because there's too many college football teams. Number two, there's the level of tampering within the NCAA that has been a major sticking point of contention. The latest example with it being the Iowa Hawkeyes, obviously with their recruitment of Cade McNamara. Was it illegal? And in some people's minds it was. In other people's minds it was not. But that remains to be seen as well from that standpoint. And of course, obviously, if we know, of course, or as we know, it's a different sport. And with these guys transferring so much, you can't keep it consistent. So I don't know if it's the right move, but it's something I'd be interested in knowing more about if it was more fleshed out. And then finally, Zain Zinger, Amazon Prime blew it, nearly missed the end of the Heat Hornets game. They fixed it though, but again, inexcusable from Amazon Prime, major streaming platform at the beginning of the NBA playoffs. Just cannot happen. People missed part of the game, or at least a minute of what could have been the end of the game, and then you come back and you had the frantic ending, and of course the Hornets won, which people saw, but still inexcusable stuff. Very confusing. Some Heidi-like stuff in 2026. And there's that. So that's going to do it for another edition of Bando's Breakdowns. That was episode 86. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please be sure to like, follow, and subscribe. YouTube.com/EDB Network to do so. And of course, you can follow the show on social media at Bando's Breakdown. That's where all the clips live. Stay tuned for those throughout the weekend as they roll out. And of course, listen to Bando's Breakdowns wherever you get your podcast. My name is Zain Bando. Thank you so much for tuning in to another show this Friday. Greatly appreciate you guys checking me out on this gloomy afternoon, depending on where you guys are at. And enjoy all of the basketball this weekend. Enjoy the NHL playoffs. And we will see you guys next week for episode 87. Right back here, same time, same place. We will see you guys soon. Thank you so much. Good luck with predictions if you guys are planning to place a couple wagers this weekend. And until next week, I'll talk to you guys soon. Cheers, everyone.